Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Om Shri Hanuma Bhima Madhvantargata Ramakrishna Vedavyasatmaka Lakshmi Hayagrivaya Namaha. Namaskara of Srinivasan Pranesh to all Sajjanas. We are going through a series of discourse under the title Vedas, an Unbiased View, and we are in part 10 of that. In part 9, we went through what is the classification under Pramāṇas. Pramāṇas itself is in connection with true cognition. So under Pramāṇa, we found two types, Kevala Pramāṇa, Anupramāṇa. So we said the true knowledge itself is Kevala Pramāṇa, Yathartha Jnanam Kevala Pramāṇam. And when it comes to Anupramāṇa, we said Yathartha Jnana Sadhanam, that is the instruments that brings us the true knowledge, is Anupramāṇa. So it is all about Yathartha Jnana, that is the true cognition or the true knowledge. So one is the knowledge itself, and other one is the instruments that bring that to us. So under Anupramāṇa, or the instruments of knowledge, we went through three types. One is direct perception or the sensual perception. Other one is inference or reasoning. And the third one is agama, which is the scriptures, primarily the Vedas, and anything that not contradict with the Vedas. We will come back to that later on what are all the authoritative scriptures. Now, we have to remember the definitions always of these three instruments of knowledge, because going forward it will all be based on that. So perception means it is a defectless contact between the sense organs and the object of knowledge. So the senses should not have any defect. The object should also not have any defect. Maybe the effect of environment like darkness or excessive brightness, all these should not be present, and there should be a clear cognition. That is the defectless contact between the senses and the object of knowledge is called perception, or direct perception, or sensual perception, whatever it is. And the next one is inference. So inference is defectless upapatti, nirdosha upapatti anumana. That means nirdosha vyapti. Vyapti means the connection between two things, where one is essentially present with the other. So we went through the example of the smoke and fire. So wherever there is smoke, there fire exists. Without fire, there is no smoke. And we went through the three conditions because reasoning should have reference either from the direct perception or from the Vedas or the scriptures. When it comes to direct perception, we shall have repeated experience, no contradicting experience, and no involvement of third party. So these three conditions we went through. In case of taking support from Vedas, then all the Vedic statements should be favor of reasoning. There shouldn't be anything that contradicts, and so on. So the inference should take support either from perception or Vedas. And third one is agama, that is the defectless shabda. Defectless sound is agama. So these three definitions, perception or the direct perception is limited to the senses. It happens because of the defectless contact between the senses and the object of knowledge. Second thing is inference or reasoning. So when we do the reasoning, it is not independent. Reasoning has to take support either from direct perception or Vedas. And in the reasoning, we have three conditions. So only when these three conditions qualify, then the reasoning will be considered qualified, or the inference will be considered qualified. The third one is agama. or Shabda. Here also the defectless sound is called Agama. So these are the three means of knowledge or the instruments of knowledge. And we always have to remember these three, because the whole series going forward, we will repeatedly hear these words: Pratyaksha, Anumana, Vedas, Shabda, Agama, all these things. So now getting into the 10th part, we raised a question in last episode on why we spoke so much on perception and inference as well. The topic is about the Vedas and unbiased view. So we said we are going to speak about the glory of the Vedas, the authority of the Vedas, the eternity of the Vedas. So why can't we quickly jump into the topic? Why we discuss about perception, inference, so many things? Let me explain, give an answer to that. So we are speaking about the true knowledge. Why do we even resort to Vedas? Because we have to get the true knowledge. Nobody aims to get doubt or wrong knowledge. Everybody wants true knowledge, and that is why we resort to these means of knowledge. Now, when we speak about the true cognition or the true knowledge, all the means of knowledge should confirm it, right? So Vedas are independent, actually. That need not Vedas does not contradict with perception or inference. Vedas speak truth independently. However, for we people to understand the truth, sometimes we resort to perception, and when it comes to the interpretation of the Vedas, we again go with the reasoning. We take support from several Vedic statements, perception, and we have our own reasoning to interpret the Vedas. So that way, perception and inference are also as important as Vedas. And we are speaking about the true knowledge. As I said, we are speaking about knowing the truth. So when there are three means to know the truth, then all three shall confirm the same. The results should be the same. Only then it will be considered truth. If something is not at all falling within the scope of one of the means, then that is a different case. We will come to that. Let me explain with some examples. Let us say we have a chemical laboratory. So we are having a solution, chemical solution in hand, and we are asked to find out the presence of a particular chemical in it, say sulfur or something, whatever it may be. Assume anything that you want. Now, the tutor says there are three ways to find out the presence of the chemical in this solution. And we follow these three ways, three methods. Then it means if the presence of that particular chemical in the chemical solution is true, then all three methods should confirm the presence. Only then it means it is present, right? The result should be same. All three methods should say, yes, so and so chemical is present in this test. Only then we can confirm that as truth. In case one of the methods fail or two of those methods fail and one more method confirms the presence, then there is not going to be any definitive conclusion on that. Instead, the teacher will ask you what kind of process you followed. Did you do everything correctly? Otherwise, if it is true, then all should give the same results. So how can the results be contradicting with each other? Because all methods are true. I will give you one more example. Say, for example, some crime happened. Something has happened in public, and there were three people who were witnessing the crime or who were in the spot. Let us say those are Pratyaksha. Let us name those witnesses as Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Agama for better understanding. So let us assume these three persons with the names Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Agama. Now the police somehow, let us assume everything, okay? So now the police somehow came to know that these three people were present in the crime scene. So they take these three people and investigate them on what they witnessed. Now, in case they are speaking truth, the police is getting true knowledge on what happened, then all three witnesses should speak the same thing, right? So if three people contradict with each other, or one man contradicts with other two, then this will only give room for a doubt. You might have seen in the movies. So when witnesses are fabricated or not the real witness, sometimes the lawyer may ask witnesses to come inside the court one by one and say what they witnessed. So for some questions raised by the lawyer, three people, if they answer in different ways, then it will be proven that the same is a fabricated witness, not a true witness, and those witnesses will be dismissed. The point that I am trying to make is, it is all about finding the truth. It is all about true knowledge. We went through what is true knowledge or true cognition, yathartha jnana, and then doubt, samshaya, and viparyaya, or the erroneous cognition. So doubt and erroneous cognition will fall under ayathartha jnana. Yathartha jnana is the true knowledge. And now we are seeking the true knowledge. And we told Pratyaksha, Anumana, and Shabda or Agama are the three means of knowledge. So in that case, all three should be aligned. Only then it means what they bring to us is true knowledge. Now let us take the same example and think differently. Let us say the person named Pratyaksha recently had some eye surgery. That Pratyaksha could not really witness what happened in the crime scene. He doesn't have the ability to say what he saw because he didn't witness it. But police, because he was present in the crime scene, they took him also by mistake, and they are inquiring all three now. Now, if there is a question of ability, if the person named perception, direct perception, says, I could not witness this because I had a limited ability. I had my eye surgery and I could not see anything. Then this one person can be dismissed. He can be ignored. Now the police will come to the other two, that is Agama and inference, and ask them to say what they witnessed. And if they both align with each other, then police can very well infer that they are speaking truth only, and they really cognize what happened in the crime scene. So what I'm trying to make from this is, as long as all three means of knowledge can give you the knowledge, true knowledge, then all three should be aligned. When the true knowledge that we seek about an object of knowledge is beyond the scope of something, in that case, that particular means of knowledge can be ignored as unfit, otherwise not. Say, for example, perceiving God. There are deities who perceive God. Lakshmi is perceiving Vishnu directly. Higher deities are perceiving the God as per their own abilities. Humans cannot perceive God, and they can also do when God reveals himself to them. But common people, we don't perceive, right? We understand God from the scriptures. We don't directly perceive. Even in case God reveals himself to us, that is not from day one. That will happen only when we are matured enough. So in that case, as a general case, we have to take the God is not perceived and is beyond perception. Similarly, dharma, adharma, righteousness, unrighteousness, they exist, but we can't perceive them because those are beyond senses. Similarly, papa, punya, fruits of karma, swarga, naraka, so many things we are not able to perceive. I am not able to perceive, and I believe that the viewers who are going through this YouTube are not able to perceive. So in that case, perception can be ignored. So we go by Vedas. In that case, take Vedas as authority. Inference, of course, is either supported by perception or it is supported by Vedas. So in this case, inference can very well take support from Vedas. Inference can be considered valid pramana in that case, but perception will not help. This is like how in our example, perception had eye surgery, so cannot really be a witness. So perception was ignored and the other two were considered. In case perception can support this true knowledge, means we can take something from Vedas, compare it in our perception also, and to certain extent have knowledge. Then perception, inference, Vedas, all three should be aligned and speak the same thing, give the same results. Only then it means what we are cognizing or is a true cognition, or the knowledge that we are getting is a true knowledge. Otherwise, there is all reason to doubt whether the knowledge we get is true or not, in case these three are not aligned with each other. So with this understanding, now let us go into the philosophical debate. So far, we discussed about some technical terms. We laid the foundation for the further episodes. In this episode, and slowly going forward, we will see the debates between various philosophies, especially while trying to establish the authority and eternity of the Vedas. Before going into that, I would request all people to have an open mind when it comes to the debates between philosophies, because our objective is not to favor a philosophy. Our objective is to find the truth. So we have to have an open mind. We have to give place for questions, debates. Only then we can find the truth. So I think the audience should be matured enough to have that kind of mindset. There are few people, even scholars, who take the stand that all philosophies are true. That is definitely impractical. We went through this in the very first episode, because so many philosophies have mutually contradicting views with each other. All cannot be true. That much we have to be pretty sure, because two contradicting statements cannot be true. We also had support from Bhagavad Gita, and we went through what Sri Krishna said about this. He clearly said the words in line with Pramāṇas that gives the true knowledge is always one only. And the words that are not analyzed or approved in line with the Pramāṇas and confuse us, give ayatartha jnana, or infinite in numbers. There is no limitation for lies. There can be any number of lies, but truth is always one. Let me say I have a brown pot in front of me, then I can only say there is a brown pot. That alone is the truth. But liars can lie anything. They can say it is a yellow pot, it is a blue pot, it is a white pot, it is a green pot. There are several ways to lie, infinite ways to lie. But truth is always only one. So the stand that all philosophies are true is really impractical. And some philosophers are, I don't say philosophers, I cannot say that, because philosophers usually they welcome debates. The so-called scholars or pundits, some people, they take a stand that I will speak about my philosophy and I will not open my mouth. I will keep my mouth shut when it comes for a debate or other philosophy. Because why unnecessarily we pull in other philosophies, debate on that? Some people may get hurt. Why that is necessary? So we let us talk about my philosophy. Such a stand had been never seen in the history of India in the ancient times. If a currently existing philosophy is perfect, is true, and satisfies everybody, then there is no need for a new philosophy. How come 9 philosophies originated in India? They had so many sub-philosophies because people were not in agreement with each other when they tried to find the truth. That is why so many philosophies arose. So let us say a philosophy named A is existent. When a philosophy named B comes, that B comes because there is some dissatisfaction with A. There are some disputes, there are some debates with A, and that is why B has been propounded. In that case, please tell me, how can we ignore other philosophies and discuss or give knowledge only about one philosophy without touching upon the other? Even Vedavyasa Deva didn't do that. In Brahma Sutras, he debates so many philosophies. Based on Vedavyasa Deva, there were 21 philosophies, and 22nd one is Madhva philosophy, and that is the last one that has come. After that, no philosophy that could refute Madhva philosophy has come yet. So there were difference of opinion between 22 people under the same philosophy given by Vyasadeva, that is Uttara Mimamsa or so-called Vedanta. Vedavyasa himself had Purva Paksha like Sankhya, Nyaya, Vaisheshika. We already discussed about the 9 philosophies originated in India. So he himself had a lot of debates with other philosophies. So when we discuss about one philosophy to find the truth, it is inevitable to touch. To ignore other philosophy. Other philosophies have to be necessarily discussed. That is inevitable. So the stand that all philosophies are correct, or a stand that I will speak only about my philosophy, why to pull other philosophies, are all impractical. So with this understanding, let us proceed further, because we are going to see so many debates between the philosophies, and I wish to keep the mind of the viewers prepared for such debates, and that is why I have given a speech about this. So now let us see how fitting is Madhva Siddhānta. So Madhva Siddhānta has got a lot of principles in it. One is the supremacy of Lord Vishnu, his independence, his omniscience, and the difference between God and souls. The Madhva philosophy speaks about 5 differences at the eternal level, not only at the perceivable level, at the eternal level itself. So that is called Pancha Veda, or the 5 differences. So one is the difference between God and the souls. Second one is the difference between God and insentient beings, non-living beings, and God. The third one is difference between souls and insentient beings. That is obvious. Souls are sentient and insentient beings are different from them. And the fourth one is difference between one soul and another soul. The fifth one is the difference between one insentient being and another insentient being. These are spoken at the eternal level as well as in this world at the perceivable level through our senses. Vedās support this. It says the creation is real. The creation has differences. God is different from soul. One soul is different from another soul. All these are spoken by Vedās. Necessary evidences can be provided from the Vedās. Now, Advaita philosophers, they take a stand that whatever is perceived is mithya. So we already went through the definition of mithya when we discussed about the conch and silver. So a seashell or the conch lies somewhere on the seashore. In bright sunlight, when you perceive it from a distance, you see silver in that because of the brightness, but the silver is not really present there. So they say the silver is superimposed on the seashell. So when you go close and examine, you find only the seashell. So as per Advaita, they take a stand that the silver comes to our experience. So we cannot say, we cannot reject that it is not present at all. At the same time, from the subsequent experience, the silver goes away, vanishes, and we see only the conch or seashell. So we cannot say that the silver is present also. So it is neither sat, neither truth. The silver is neither truth nor asat, neither lies nor sat asat. So it is a sat asat vilakshana, which means mithya. And mithya means anirvachaniya. Anirvachaniya means something that cannot be explained. This is the stand of Advaita. So Advaita does some inference. No. They infer that the world that we cognize, the multiplicity, the differences present here, everything is mithya, means that cannot be explained, because that comes to experience during aikya. That means when really there is no soul or insentient beings present in their philosophy. They are all products of ignorance only. They are not really present. So when you attain aikya jnana, that is, when you realize that there is no second entity at all, and you yourself are the God, then everything, all the things that we perceive vanishes. So they say, they infer that whatever is perceived, whatever is seen, whatever comes to our sensual experience is mithya. The multiplicity of souls, multiplicity of insentient beings, the difference present between them, everything is mithya for them. All are products of avidya or ignorance, and everything will vanish when you get the true knowledge that you yourself is God, and a second entity is not at all present here, may it be sentient or insentient. This is their philosophy. Now, they try to take support from perception. We already went through that. When we speak about inference, then the experience should be repeated experience from the perception, in case you take support from the perception, as in the case of smoke and fire. When you infer that fire is present without seeing it, just by seeing the smoke on a distant hill. So we give lot of references, like I saw like this in the kitchen, I saw like this in the cremation ground, I saw like this in the fire ritual. So we have repeated experience. That is why we are able to take support from the perception and say our inference is correct. So in the inference made by the Advaitis, propounded by Advaita, propounded by Adi Shankaracharya, they do an inference that whatever is perceived is product of nescience. Those are not real. Those are mithya. Those cannot be explained at all what it is, because that comes to experience as of now. But one day we will understand that all these are products of nescience, and everything will vanish from our eyesight. That will happen when we realize we ourselves are the God. Right? So now they take support from perception for this inference. What is the, they say, as we perceive conch silver. They say, when we perceive conch, we don't actually perceive the conch. We see silver there. The silver is actually superimposed on the conch. But The silver is actually not present there. Though it comes to our experience, it is really not present there. And on careful examination, we find that only the conch exists. Similarly, only the God exists. And whatever we see here, whatever we perceive here, are superimposed on the God, similar to a silver on the shell. So this is their inference taking support from perception. Now let us look into the inference. Definition of inference. We discussed about Vyapti. We said 3 conditions have to be met if the inference have to qualify. The first one is the repeated experience. So we perceive so many things, infinite things in this world. Only with the conch and silver example, if they proceed to say whatever you perceive is mithya, superimposed, that means the similar kind of experience should have happened in every perception. But the silver conch example is 1 in 1 lakh case, we can say, tentatively. I am perceiving a pot. I don't have any doubt. There is no superimposition there. I clearly say it is pot. I am pretty sure about that. I perceive a book. I say it is book. I perceive table. I say it is table. I perceive a chair. I say it is a chair. I perceive a human. I don't get a doubt whether it is a human or lion. I clearly say that is human. When I perceive lion, I say that is lion. I don't get a doubt whether it is a lion or deer. So most of the cases are very clearly perceived in this world, and such experiences, erroneous experiences, may be 1 in 1 lakh case. How many examples we can give like this? Snake and rope. In the night, we see rope and we mistake that as snake. Similarly, conch, silver, say mirage and water. How many examples can we give like this? The inference clearly fails because 99% of the perception are not superimposed. That is a clear perception we have. This may be 1 in 1 lakh case, and this is not a perception at all. That we will come to that later. We have to always remember the definition which we said. Defectless contact between the senses and the object of knowledge. That is perception. In this case, there is some defect present in the perceiver while perceiving, and hence it is not a real perception at all. It is not a proper example, and that example is also contradicting with so many other experiences. If you show one example of superimposition to qualify the philosophy, then other person can show hundreds of thousands of lakhs of clear perception without any superimposition. So there is no repeated experience. There is contradicting experience. And how the conch appears as silver because of the excessive bright sunlight or something, which is a third party involvement. So by all means, the inference of the Advaitins fail. So the inference supported by perception fails, and clearly the perception will not support Advaitins, Advaita philosophy. Hence, as per perception and the inference supported by perception, Advaita does not give true knowledge. Now what do Advaitins do? They have to somehow qualify their inference. Only then their philosophy will qualify, because all philosophies are tested with the Pramāṇas. That is why we discussed about the Pramāṇas in first place. If Pramāṇas fail a philosophy, then the philosophy is not true. Now they have to qualify their inference. That I am God. This is the first inference. I am myself God. And there is only God. There is no second entity in this world. And whatever comes to our perception is mithya. Means those will vanish at some stage. Now, to qualify this inference, perception is not supporting much. That is a weaker side. So they take the side of Vedas. They pick some statements from Vedas like Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Ekameva Advitiyam, whatever they call as Mahavakyas. And they try to qualify their stand that God alone is real truth and rest all are Mithya. The creation, the world is Mithya. Multiplicity of the souls is a product of ignorance. There is only one sentient being, which is God. There is no multiplicity in the sentient beings as per Advaita. Now, applying the same rules of the inference again. If you take Mahavakyas from the Vedas and start saying that this will qualify the inference made, then it is not so, because Vedas say the world was really created, the world is real, the differences are real, creation is spoken in Purusha Sukta. Vedas clearly say God is different from soul. So Vedas in Rig Veda, Mandala 10, Sukta number 190, it clearly says Surya Chandramasau Data Yata Purvam Akalpayat Divam Cha Prithvim Cha Antariksham Ato Swaha. So, as before, how the creation was made in previous kalpas, in the same way, the creator made the sun, he made the moon, he made the heaven, earth, the middle world. So, like this, Vedas clearly speak about the reality in creation. I'm not giving evidences one by one, may not be of interest to people. We can have it in a separate series of discourse if interested, when we completely discuss about Madhva philosophy. After establishing the authority of the Vedas. But Vedas clearly give statements that God is different from soul, God is different from insentient beings. Insentient beings are real, the world is real, the differences are real. So how does the inference qualify here? Because contradiction occurs from the Veda itself. They take Vedas as the source to support their inference and say that their inference is correct. They picked something, they named it as Mahavakyas and said it. But the same Vedas are giving contradicting opinion. Then how come the inference qualifies? Here also the inference fails. So based on perception, based on inference, based on Vedas, by all means, the Advaita philosophy does not speak truth. We cannot conclude like this only with what we discussed, because it is a big level of debate between the philosophies from various aspects. It will take days together if we start debating on that. But fundamentally, the Advaita philosophy is not in agreement with the Pramāṇas. When something is not in agreement with the Pramāṇas, then that cannot be accepted as truth. You cannot say that perception shows differences. Okay, differences are perceived, but you ignore the perception. I will have Mahavakyas from the Vedas and I will infer that all these differences are Mithya. Can we take a stand like that? No, because we already saw at the beginning of this episode that if something spoken is true, then all three should get aligned. You cannot say that perception will not align with this, so you please leave that. We will have only Vedas and inference. Perception will speak something else. See, you have three people, three witnesses. So one witness is useless. That is what Advaita says. The second witness, Vedas, that speaks something different from the first witness. And the second witness is always dependent either on the first witness or the third witness. He will not speak anything independently. Then how come you pass a judgment based on these witnesses? So if something is true, then that has to be confirmed by all three means, as long as it comes in the scope of those three means. Now, they take different stand to qualify that their interpretation of Vedas is correct. The first thing is, we say Ananto Vai Veda. Vedas are infinite. God only knows Vedas completely. Maybe Lakshmi knows because she is the deity of the Vedas. So she definitely knows Vedas in its entirety. But God is not, Vishnu is not completely known by Lakshmi. He is infinite even for Lakshmi. So from our perspective, when we say Vedas are infinite, they have picked some 4 or 5 words from the whole set of Vedas. They named it as Mahavakya, and they say only these Mahavakyas give the real essence of the philosophy, and rest all are unimportant or Mukhya. Such a stand is also not right. Let us discuss about this in the next episode on why this is not right. So if such a stand is taken, how does that backfire to the Advaitis? All those let us discuss. But as of now, we say perception, inference, and Vedas, all three does not support Advaita. But when it comes to Dvaita, as we already went through, so when it comes to the matters like God, means qualities of God, knowing God himself. God is not perceived. He is known from Vedas only. So God, and then righteousness, unrighteousness, punya, papa, heaven, hell, fruits of karma, all those things we discussed. There are so many things that cannot be perceived. It is out of the scope of perception. So in that case, Vedas clearly state the difference, clearly support Madhva Siddhānta, and inference based on Vedas will also qualify. And when we speak about the difference, of course, Vedas speak difference at the Prakriti level, at the eternity level, which also we cannot really perceive everything. But we can at least understand a little from our sensual perception that differences are real. So Dvaita has the support from Pratyaksha as well. See, in this world, if I seed a mango seed, mango tree only comes from the neem tree does not come. If I plant a tulasi, then only tulasi plant comes from the. Some other plant is not coming from the. Our 5 fingers are not same, but within the same body, different organs are there. And if you take fingers, which are a common thing, 5 fingers are not same, they are different. The leaves in the same tree are different. What I experience is not experienced by others. When I am in pain, somebody else is in joy. When somebody is in joy, somebody else is in pain. When I am blissful or happy, somebody else is crying because somebody expired at their home. Our experiences are not same. Obviously, we are different from each other. So fundamentally, the difference is understood by our very experience. So the sensual perception supports Dvaita, which is propounded by Sri Madhvacharya. There are so many Vedic statements which say the creation is true and there is difference in creation. There is hierarchy in the Devatas. Vishnu is supreme and he is entirely different from all others, cannot be compared at all. Lakshmi is different. So there is a difference between God and soul. There is a difference between soul and soul. Everything is clearly stated in the Vedas. So now perception supports Madhva Siddhānta. Vedas support Madhva Siddhānta. And inference is obviously dependent on perception or Vedas. So inference can be always in support of Dvaita, Madhva Siddhānta. I can say difference is real. Similar to perceiving a pot and cloth. Right? Inference qualifies. Pot is not cloth. Now, Advaitins may question back Madhva Siddhānta They may ask, see, you can show lot of examples for your inference from the perception that everything is different. But how about the conch and shell? How about the snake and rope? Such things also comes in your experience. No, so you are also having contradicting experience. So in that case, how your inference qualifies is it does not qualify the three conditions, right? If this is the question from the Advaitins, then the answer is, we say sensual perception or direct perception is the defectless contact between the sense organs and the object of knowledge. But in the examples given, like the conch and shell, snake and rope, there is a defect. Yeah, I see a snake. When I examine it further, I find that is rope. So with that, you cannot say the snake was superimposed on the rope. There is a defect in the perception. I might have seen a snake on the rope because of the some similarity between them, and the environment conditions didn't support. Maybe I perceived it in the darkness, or maybe there was some problem in my eyes. So this is not a defectless perception. This is not a defectless contact between the sense organ and the object of knowledge. So such examples like snake and rope, conch and silver does not fall under the scope of the perception at all. So you cannot call it a contradicting experience or contradicting perception in case of Madhva philosophy, because this is not a perception at all. If it is a true perception, if it is a defectless perception, then we get clear knowledge as well, and there is no superimposition, there is no doubt at all. So this way, we can very well say that the perception, inference, and Vedas, everything clearly supports Madhva Siddhānta. Hence, what Madhva Siddhānta says can be accepted as truth. Whereas, when it comes to Advaita, let it be perception or Vedas or inference, depending on those perception Vedas, everything is not convincing, debatable, and the Pramāṇas are not really supporting Advaita, and hence there arises a doubt whether Advaita speaks truth or not. So this is just an example that how do we say, the view of Advaita has been very briefly presented, so we can understand the Pramāṇas as per the definition of Pramāṇas we went through in the previous parts. So how that supports a philosophy, how that does not support a philosophy. So how can we analyze something in line with the Pramāṇas to say whether it is true or not. So with this, I will conclude this episode. In the next episode, Vedas, we will discuss about the Vedas. So how Advaita philosophy divides the Vedas into two, as the portions having some philosophical thing, means the essence of the Vedas, and how are the rest, means the major portion has been dismissed by Advaita as not so important, not philosophical. If this stand is taken, then it is like cutting the Vedas at its root as Pramāṇa. This will surely backfire the Advaitins by taking such a stand. So in the next episode, let us see how these Advaitins divide the Vedas into two, and how that will backfire on the Advaitins. So if we accept Vedas in whole as Pramāṇa, then how about the contradicting statements in the Vedas? How do we resolve these contradictions? All such things let us discuss in the 11th part. So as of now, on the 10th part, we discussed about the three instruments of knowledge and their definitions, and we discussed that, to summarize, we discussed that if something spoken is true, and if all the three instruments of knowledge have ability to present it to us, then all three should confirm the same, should be aligned. And in case something is beyond the limits of one of the means, then that is a different case. But as long as, say for example, as Advaita says, the difference is real. So this is supported by perception, Vedas, inference. All three confirms this. And that is how we decide that is truth. And in case of Advaita, we went through how perception is not supporting their theory, and how Vedas are also not supporting their theory, and how inference will not work out because it is dependent on either of these. So what will happen in case all three means of knowledge are not aligned? So then we can conclude that that is not a true philosophy. So this is a simple analysis presented with an example, taking three witnesses in a crime scene, so that you can better understand about the Pramāṇas, how that should be aligned, and how the philosophies can be examined in line with the Pramāṇas. So with this, I conclude this part, and we will again continue this debate in the 10th part, because it is already a long span, but this long span could not be avoided also, because if I further split this 10th part into two, then the flow will not be continuous. Like it will feel like the episode has ended abruptly without any conclusion. So I had to drag it up to this point as far as the 10th part is concerned. So please bear with me as far as the video span is concerned. It is a long video. I agree to that. However, that was absolutely necessary. With this, let us conclude this. Sarvam Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.